Americans are going to be like, what in the goddamn cheeseburger is that? You've just exposed yourself as a massive f***ing retard, haven't you? That she had been scared by him and felt taken advantage of, adding, when a girl says no, it means no. Brand replied saying he was very sorry. I reckon that Russell Brand has utilised the legal system to try and suppress some of this stuff. That is the f***ing Patrick Bateman meme. I am very judgmental of the mother. I'm extremely judgmental of the mother in this. 2 former crew members coming forward separately to say this was happening. I just said that, you total deranged retard. I literally just said to you, he your granddaughter. Okay, that is just boys being boys though, come on. You guys know who Russell Brand is, right? Russell Brand is a comedian, British guy. Became big in like Hollywood movies as well. Known for having quite a promiscuous past, drug past, so on and so on and so on. Now he's pivoted into like alt media, vaccines are bad, Ukraine should just let Russia roll over them for peace's sake, etc., etc., etc. Right? So yeah, he's like an Alex Jones hippie. He's like a hippie version of Alex Jones now. Okay, so that's basically what we're dealing with Russell Brand. He is the king of the schizos. Yeah, it's Jimmy Dore kind of tier content. And it's funny as well, because I remember watching Russell Brand many years ago, like having a go at Nigel Farage on a British TV show. He called him the Pound Shop Enoch Powell. You know, he's very, very vicious towards him. And I just wonder if he would say the same sorts of things now, whether that would upset his populist audience too much. Anyway. Yeah, that was question time. Yeah, question time. A long time ago. Well, here's the thing. We don't know what has and hasn't happened, right? Basically, there's been chatter over the past couple of days like this kind of thing. There's a British TV show called Dispatches, and it's a bit like a UK version of like 60 Minutes. Only runs for 30 minutes, but you get the point, right? It kind of does investigative reporting and broadcasts their findings and stuff like that, right? So they did a, was it them that did the Labour anti-Semitism claims or something? In any case, they're doing this show and it's being talked about because apparently it's like an expose on certain like British comedians, but no one really knows exactly what it is. They're playing their cards very close to their chest, basically. Anyway, this is the kind of chatter that has been discussed about this particular show.
A very important current affairs programme going out on Channel 4 tonight. It's called Dispatches. It's done an awful lot of incredible work, actually, in the past. It's very highly thought of. But at the moment, everybody's talking about what may be in that programme this evening. Stephanie Teche joins us now. Hi, Steph.
Good morning,
I imagine the Twitter sphere, or whatever we call it nowadays, is buzzing. Yeah. What's going on? Can you explain? And can you explain where Russell Brand comes in?
Well, it hasn't been no laughing matter for the comedy industry over the past few days.
Nice pun.
There's been talk of this Channel 4 Dispatches programme tonight, which is set to be an expose of high-profile comedians who've had shocking allegations which have been held up against them. And some of these allegations have never been heard by the public. But
this is the thing, when I first heard about this, it was like one tweet I saw and it was like, oh, some allegations are about to go out. And apparently some comedians have cheated on their partner and done drugs. And I was just thinking like, okay, I don't really care about that. But then I saw that Russell Brand had come out with a statement. And I was like, okay, why is Russell Brand coming out with a statement about this, which we'll watch in a second? And apparently it might be a little bit more serious than that. So I don't know what the information is that's going to be in it. We'll continue to see what happens, but let's have a look.
In this programme, they've got 3 years' worth of footage. From what I've learnt from sources, it's not just one comedian, it's an array of comedians that are set.
Well, the reason people are... I don't know if this segment does. The reason people are talking about Russell Brand is Russell Brand has come out with a statement, presumably to get ahead of being in the show, because obviously he would have been reached out to as part of their investigation. And so that probably, you know, teed him on to there being some claims made that he needs to try and get ahead of in some way. Now, obviously, trying to get ahead of something isn't necessarily a bad thing. Like, it could be that there isn't merit to these claims. But without seeing it, obviously, none of us can really know. And everyone is immediately jumping, or the populist types are immediately jumping to, you know, defending Russell Brand. Whereas my take on it is, I don't know what is going on. We'll see what happens and comes out, right?
Set to be named tonight. Russell Brand, he has come out with a Twitter video saying that he's been approached by I can't name the newspaper and I can't name the TV station, who've approached him with damaging allegations, which he says are highly criminal. He's jumped ahead of the game. He says that he denies all these allegations. I do not know if Russell Brand will be named tonight, but clearly he wants to say he's not guilty of any of the offences which are going to come tonight. We have the clip.
Criminal charges.
Now, this isn't...
Okay, we're going to watch this later. Don't care about this for now. We're going to watch that in a minute. Don't ruin my segment.
And we don't know at this stage what any of this is.
Russell Brand is a very controversial character, and as he made light in the video, he's had a lot of battles with both drink, drugs and sex. And he says some of these allegations, which he does speak about, comes from a time when he was quite promiscuous. And
okay, here's a problem, though. If he's, like, drunk and on drugs, how can he be sure? What if he was fucking drugged out of his little mind and something happened?
Russell Brand has never made light of that before, and he says he's mentioned that. He's mentioned that in his books and his shows. So we only have to wait and see whether these two are going to be linked between that programme tonight and what Russell Brand is talking about in this video.
How can he consent himself?
Fascinating, isn't it?
It is.
Yes, it'll get a lot of viewers, I imagine, because
I think
you'll want to know why Russell Brand is speaking out the way he is. And
these news programs don't care at all about journalistic integrity. No, Dispatches is the person is correct. Dispatches is a well-regarded investigative news show that has found and exposed things before. It's of a high caliber. It's what's the US? I said 60 Minutes just off the top of my head, but you know, they're not known for being like complete smear merchants. Generally speaking, they do good journalism, right? But obviously. No, not Vice. Vice is, yeah. Tucker Carlson. PBS Frontline? Yeah, I don't know what I always feel like I've got to do an American equivalent because otherwise Americans are going to be like, what in the goddamn cheeseburger is that? But maybe that's enough. They're a credible, well-regarded investigative news show. Okay? Is that enough? So, obviously, who knows what's happened? There's literally just scuttlebutt about it, and that's it. Everything we know about Channel 4 Dispatches as new mystery documentary set to air, and then just a random bloke in shadow. The documentary series, which has previously covered divisive and controversial topics, is returning for a dramatic episode, which is believed to be highlighting bad behaviour by an A-list household name, which people I think are guessing is Russell Brand. Because even though he does his little 2-bit YouTube channel, well, 2-bit is massive, but even though he's like a YouTuber doing the kind of Jimmy Dore style shtick, he is like an A-list name still, isn't he? People know who he is. In fact, if you went to a normie and said, oh, Russell Brand, they think of him from like TV or the movies. They probably wouldn't even know about his weirdo little YouTube channel where he talks about vaccines, or big YouTube channel. Brit watches Channel 4 propaganda funded by tax money and thinks it's unbiased. Imagine paying for a TV license. Well, Design, you've just exposed yourself as a massive fucking retard, haven't you? Channel 4 isn't funded by taxpayer money, you fucking moron. That's the BBC. What a fucking idiot. God, could you imagine stating something so confidently and being so fucking retarded? It runs ads, you fucking idiot.
Welcome.
Thank you very much for the sub. Appreciate it. I love it when Yankoids come in and are like, oh, you got your TV license for Channel 4 isn't fucking paid for by the TV license, idiot. But yeah, I mean, I just don't understand. This is the problem you've got, right? And we'll look at it in a sec, okay? Channel 4 will be criticised along the same lines as the BBC is, because that's what the fucking Andrew Tate retards have put out there, right? Ever since the BBC did an interview with Andrew Tate, right? All of those fucking morons are spouting the same talking points. It's the Matrix and all this shit. Because the fucking Tates have planted the seed for that. You know? You can see it out there. We'll show it in a sec. Anyway, without any further ado, let's look at the statement. So, Russell Brand released a statement about this. Let's see what he's got to say.
Hello there, you Awakening Wonders. Now, this isn't the usual type of video we make on this channel where we critique, attack and undermine the news in all its corruption, because in this story, I am the news. I've received two extremely disturbing letters, or a letter and an email, one from a mainstream media TV company, one from a newspaper, listing a litany of extremely egregious and aggressive attacks, as well as some pretty stupid stuff like my community festival should be stopped, that I shouldn't be able to attack mainstream media narratives on this channel. But amidst this litany of astonishing, rather baroque attacks are some very serious allegations that I absolutely refute. These allegations pertain to the time when I was working in the mainstream, when I was in the newspapers all the time, when I was in the movies, and as I've written about extensively
Right,
in my
sorry, I got distracted.
Community festival should be stopped, that I shouldn't be able to attack mainstream media narratives on this channel. But amidst this litany of astonishing, rather baroque attacks are some very serious allegations that I absolutely refute. These allegations pertain to the time when I was working in the mainstream, when I was in the newspapers all the time, when I was in the movies, and as I've written about extensively in my books, I was very, very promiscuous. Now, during that time of promiscuity, the relationships I had were absolutely always consensual. I was always transparent about that then, almost too transparent. And I'm being transparent about it now as well. And to see that transparency metastasized into something criminal that I absolutely deny makes me question, is there another agenda at play? Particularly when we've seen coordinated media attacks before, like with Joe Rogan, when he dared to take a medicine that the mainstream media didn't approve of. And we saw a spate of headlines from media outlets across...
Okay. My concern with this is, and again, I've not seen any of the information or evidence, so I'm not coming to any conclusions until I watch whatever this documentary presents. But you notice how he's pivoting to kind of hide behind the kind of alt media shit. Do you see what I mean? It's like if it had just come out and he'd have put that to the side and he'd have gone, listen guys, there are allegations against me, I just want to absolutely refute them in the strongest possible terms, that'd be fine. But he's bringing in these kind of weird conspiracies, and it feels like, it kind of reminds me a bit of like what the Tates have done. In terms of threading in these conspiracies so they can like decry and deny the allegations that are against them, rather than just address it as it is and talk about it as it is. And obviously his audience are just going to eat this up.
Across the world using the same language. I'm aware that you guys have been saying in the comments for a while, watch out Russell, they're coming for you, you're getting too close to the truth, Russell Brand did not kill himself. I know that a year ago there was a spate of articles, Russell Brand's a conspiracy theorist, Russell Brand's right wing. I'm aware of news media making phone calls, sending letters to people I know for ages and ages. It's been clear to me, or at least it feels to me, like there's a serious and concerted agenda to control these kind of spaces and these kind of voices. And I mean my voice along with your voice. I don't mind them using my books and my stand-up to talk about my promiscuous consensual conduct in the past. What I seriously refute are these very, very serious criminal allegations. Also, it's worth mentioning that there are witnesses whose evidence directly contradicts the narratives that these two mainstream media outlets are trying to construct, apparently in what seems to me to be a coordinated attack. Now,
a coordinated attack? Do you notice the fucking language that's being used? This is exactly the same fucking language that the Tates use. So it feels like what the Tates have done is basically given this entire fucking narrative that people that are part of the alt media can come out with and fucking state if stuff like this happens. So whilst, again, I'm not saying I don't know anything about one way or another. I don't even know what the fucking allegations are, right? But the fact that he is, he's kind of tapping into this pre-made narrative that the Tates have kind of brought to the forefront. Yeah, I don't know, man. That's a bit suspicious to me.
I don't want to get into this any further because of the serious nature of the allegations, but I feel like I'm being attacked, and plainly they are working very closely together. We are obviously going to look into this matter because it's very, very serious. In the meantime, I want you to stay close, stay awake, but more important than any of that, if you can, please stay free.
What do you think? I think he is relying. I think that he is why aren't I streaming on Kick? Because I make more money on Twitch. I think that he is relying on people just tapping into the pre-proposed narrative, relying, not lying, relying. Did I say lying? Relying on the pre-proposed narrative that is created by people like the Tates in order to dismiss any sort of allegation against them as part of some, as he said, like coordinated attack or matrix. It's like he's priming his audience. It's like he's priming his audience to, you know, have that narrative pre-prepared for when it actually comes out, rather than actually engaging with it as it is. Not saying that he needs to like go into it and talk about it, you know, presumably it's going to come out in this documentary. But I don't like the way he's brought this conspiracy element into it. That's highly suspicious to me, because why would you need to do that? Why would you not just lay it out as it is? Why would you not just say, I completely refute the allegations? Why even mention the Joe Rogan
with
thing?
Joe Rogan, when he dared to take a medicine that the mainstream media didn't approve of. And we saw a spate of headlines from media outlets across the world using the same language. I'm aware that you guys have been saying in the comments for a while, watch out, Russell, they're coming for you, you're getting too close to the truth. Russell Brand did not kill himself. I know that a year ago there was a spate of articles. Russell Brand's a conspiracy theorist. Russell Brand's right wing. I'm aware of news media making phone calls, sending letters to people I know for ages and
yeah, there's like this conspiratorial undertone to it, and I just like, I agree that people can make claims and allegations that are embellished and stuff like that, but I feel like we're getting to the point with this where it's almost like he's pre-creating this narrative that what would the idea be? The media have got people to say that they did things to them? I just don't know how that would work. The media's job is to, if there is a claim or an allegation, is to you know, engage with, verify, etc. Obviously, if they come out and they just go, oh yeah, well, this woman said something happened and that's that. Yeah, that's not that, you know, maybe I might agree more with the conspiracy even, right? What would he say if he's falsely accused? Well, why bring up Joe Rogan? That's my question to you back. Well, if you're falsely accused of something, why are you bringing up Joe Rogan and the fucking vaccine? That is purely there to prime his audience. That's it. There's literally no fucking reason to even mention Joe Rogan if someone falsely accuses you of something. You would just say, I completely and utterly refute these claims. You know, my lawyers are involved. I can't speak about it further. Da, da, da. You say something like that. Why would you even bring it up? The reason he's bringing it up is trying to prime his audience to latch onto the narrative. And that doesn't say anything as to whether or not, you know, he did it, obviously. I just don't like the fact that that is a thing now. So look, Tristan Tate's on his side. Handsome, charming, rich movie star Rusty Rockets is now a sexual predator. See, again, this is not like a good argument. Just because someone is handsome, charming, a rich movie star doesn't mean they can't do something bad. It's hard when you're tall, famous, good-looking, and rich. Some of us have to resort to kidnapping people. The mainstream media exposing guys like us, but ignoring Prince Andrew, Hugh Edwards, Epstein is great. Sorry, can I ask you a question, guys? What entity was it that you read about Prince Andrew, Hugh Edwards, and Epstein? For me, It was the mainstream media because they all reported on all of that stuff. What? All of those people were largely and repeatedly reported on by the mainstream media. So, it is now officially dropped. As suspected, off the back of some of the scuttlebutt and obviously Russell Brand's video, there have indeed been allegations made against Russell Brand by 4 women. Also worth noting, one who was just 16. Damn. Let's have a look. Let's see what's going on. And then also, tomorrow we can double dip on this because we've then got the Dispatches documentary too. So we can double dip on this one. Make allegations after an investigation by the Sunday Times, The Times, and Channel 4 Dispatches. The comedian and actor Russell Brand has been accused of rape, sexual assaults, and emotional abuse during a 7-year period at the height of his fame. 4 women who have alleged sexual assaults between 2006 and 2013 while he was a presenter for BBC Two and Channel 4, and then an actor in Hollywood films. Others have made a range of accusations about Brand's controlling, abusive, and predatory behaviour. Brand denied the allegations and said his relationships have all been consensual. The findings come from a joint investigation by the Sunday Times, The Times, and Channel 4 Dispatches. One woman alleges that Brand raped her against a wall in his Los Angeles home. She was treated at a rape crisis centre on the same day, according to medical records. Ooh. Text messages show that in the hours after leaving the house, she told Brand that she had been scared by him and felt taken advantage of, adding, "When a girl says no, it means no." Brand replied saying he was very sorry. I wonder if they're going to show the text messages. For your consideration. Okay, what's this? 16 plus is legal in our country, England. We cannot meme that Andrew Tate is a pedo for legal stuff. Destiny actually goes out of his way to defend actual pedophiles, though with made-up BS studies among the pseudosciences. 16 plus is legal here. Would you like to try again, loser? That is a fucking classic meme. That's right of reply, isn't it? God, he was a fucking nightmare. I honestly thought he was going to come and fucking skin me alive. He was fucking insane. Anyway, there we go. So, take from that what you will, okay? I personally think that... sleeping with 16-year-olds is bad, personally. Anyway, let's continue. A second woman alleges that Brand assaulted her when he was 31 and she was 16 and still at school. She said he referred to her as the child during an emotionally abusive and controlling relationship that lasted for about 3 months, and that Brand once forced his penis down her throat, making her choke. She says she tried to push him off and said she had to punch him in the stomach to make him stop. A third woman claims that he sexually assaulted her while she worked with him in Los Angeles, and that he threatened to take legal action if she told anyone else about the allegation. So, okay. Obviously, we're very early into this, and we're going to obviously read on. My suspicion is that, regardless of what the truth of any of this is that Russell Brand, I believe strongly that he absolutely has utilized and abused the legal system to his benefit. I strongly believe that's the case. And I got that suspicion earlier, right? And I'll say it plainly now. I reckon that Russell Brand has utilized the legal system to try and suppress some of this stuff. I strongly believe that. Hopefully there'll be some evidence provided that, can back that strong belief up. But yeah, it makes too much sense to me. And, obviously we read that article earlier where he took the starter court for libel and he got paid out on it. And I think that probably would have given some cover, but I think that more so is like a mistake of the paper fucking up a detail of it. But it seems pretty obvious to me that he's very willing to take legal action. And obviously legal action can be reasonable in situations, on like an individual occasion if you're being defamed for something. But there is what some rich and powerful people do is they will utilize the legal system to their benefit. There's, cases of this, particularly in the UK, where people have done something wrong. Not saying whether or not Brand has, I don't know, but someone will have done something wrong, and because they've got access to adequate resources, they can, invoke the legal system against people to make them stop talking about something because, even if perhaps it did happen. But anyway, let's read on. The fourth described being sexually assaulted by Brand and him being physically and emotionally abusive towards her. All said they felt ready to speak only after being approached by reporters. Several said they felt compelled to do so given Brand's newfound prominence as an online wellness influencer with millions of followers on YouTube and other sites. Oh no, that's going to back up the Matrix narrative, isn't it? People are going to point to that and go, yeah, there it is, see, he starts talking out against vaccines and everyone wants to come out against him. Okay, let's focus on, can we not? The others have accused him of physical and emotional abuse, sexual harassment and bullying. Most of the women who do not know each other have chosen to remain anonymous. They don't know each other, okay. Over the past few years, reporters have interviewed hundreds of sources who knew or worked with Brand, ex-girlfriends and their friends and family, comedians and other celebrities, people who worked with him from radio and TV, and senior staff at the BBC, Channel 4 and other media organisations. Oh boy. Damn. Ooh. Along with these interviews, reporters have seen private emails and text messages, submitted freedom of information requests, viewed medical and therapist notes, scrutinised Brand's books and interviews, and watched and listened to hundreds of hours of his shows on the BBC, Channel 4 and YouTube to corroborate allegations. Yeah, I've got to be honest with you. The Times is a broadsheet paper in the UK. Dispatches, again, is a quite credible documentary show that does investigative journalism. Obviously, they're likely, particularly in the TV show, to show some of the evidence they got. I hope they do. But yeah, this is not sounding good for Brand. This is not sounding good for Brand. They've been doing it for years. Like, what I'm trying to say is the Times is highly unlikely to come forward with a story unless they've got, a lot of backing to it, right? Unless they've got a lot to back this up. Particularly if he is, as I believe, a litigious person, they're going to want to make sure that they can fucking nail this on with, All I'm saying is, whilst still keep an open mind and see what's what, this is not, what I'm saying, this isn't a fucking twitlonger, right? This isn't some fucking stupid bitch that had a bad experience that is now claiming it's rape coming forward as a fucking twitlonger, okay? Like, this is something that absolutely is worth taking seriously, and, this is far more credible than when we see some random fucking twitlonger or something on Twitter. That's all I'm trying to say, okay? But nonetheless, let's continue on. Brand, who is now 48, has managed to maintain his fame for the past 2 decades through reinvention. First as a stand-up comedian known for debauchery, before becoming a primetime Channel 4 TV host, BBC radio star, Hollywood actor, and most recently a wellness guru and anti-establishment influencer with millions of followers online. Okay, I'm just going to start banning retards that say things like, so you just believe the mainstream media. Did I actually just say that? You're banned. Fuck off. Throughout his career, Brand's material has acknowledged his sex addiction, and he has often publicly joked about his predatory behaviour and sex life.
Welcome to Chud Nation.
There were rumours of more sinister behaviour, said to be discussed as an open secret by senior TV and radio executives, and among female comedians who warned each other of his behaviour. But the woman involved previously felt unable to speak out. Their stories, now told publicly for the first time, shine a light on Brand's mistreatment of women behind closed doors and on industries that enabled him. Damn. The Times and the Sunday Times gave Brand 8 days within which to reply to detailed allegations, including information to enable him to recall the alleged incidents. Lawyers for Brand initially said that they were not in a position to provide any response to the allegations because we had posed a large litany of questions and had intentionally chosen to anonymize the names of the women. They characterized this as deliberate and part of a preconceived strategy aimed at damaging their client. Why? This is the thing with this, right? Why on earth? The only way that you're gonna buy in to this sort of characterization is if you bought whole cloth the Andrew Tate defense. Oh, it's the Matrix coming for me. Oh, the press are trying to attack me and they're trying to come for me. Do you know what I mean? Like, why would the Times and Dispatches spend 3 years investigating this? Just because he's doing anti-vax stuff now. And also, the start of this investigation was before he started doing all the wacky anti-vax shit on YouTube as well. For money. Yeah, but they could write a bunch of things about money. Also, in the UK, coming out with an article like this without having like nailed on proof leaves you massively exposed to litigation because of the defamation. Anyway, let's continue. They said that that publication was a concerted campaign and their client believes that there is a deeply concerning agenda to all this, namely the fact that he is an What am I telling you? I said this earlier about this weird fucking defense that he's doing. Oh, I'm an alternative media broadcaster. That's why you're coming for me, because I'm your competition. Deeply concerning agenda to all this, namely the fact that he is an alternative media broadcaster competing with mainstream media. Pressed to provide a full response, the same lawyers did not reply. When given the opportunity to respond, Brand broadcast a statement on his YouTube channel saying, amidst this litany of astonishing, rather baroque attacks are some very serious allegations that I absolutely refute. He said his relationships have always been consensual. He accused the mainstream media of a coordinated attack and said that there are witnesses whose evidence directly contradicts the narratives. The Sunday Times asked his lawyer for the evidence referred to, but no answer was provided. Oh dear. Right, here we go. He sent a car to my school to take me out of lessons. As a taxi approached Russell Brand's home, Alice remembers the driver begging her not to go inside. Recognizing the destination, he had started to ask questions. Alice admitted she was 16 and still in school. She says the driver replied that the daughter was the same age and entreated Alice, please, I'm asking you not to go in there. You could be my little girl and I would want someone to do this for her. He offered to take her home without charge, but Alice insisted she was fine. He just had such a sad look in his eyes, she recalls. Yeah, I'm never a fan of the kind of emotive shit before it starts. I don't know, man. I'm always a bit... I'm more of like, get to the fucking meat and potatoes, okay? Let's get to the meat and potatoes here. Obviously, there's going to be a bit of like judging up of this, right? Oh, there was a taxi driver that tried to stop me and I didn't want to. But let's continue nonetheless. Alice, whose name we have changed to protect her identity, now realizes that she wasn't fine. During a relationship that lasted for about 3 months, when Brand was a BBC radio presenter, she says that he referred to her as the child and alleges that he became increasingly controlling and then emotionally and sexually abusive. Brand, then 30, sent a car to a secondary school to take her out of lessons and to his home, she says, and asked her to save his name in the phone as Carly to deceive her parents. The trouble with stuff like this is it's going to be very difficult to verify what exactly happened here, right? That's the trouble. Get hold of the taxi driver, find out what he knows. But anyway, let's just try and read through this as best we can. It's always troublesome having to stop and comment on it. Let's just try and read it. Brand's management knew that he had a teenage girlfriend and advised him not to be seen with her in public, she says. Alice alleges that Brand once forced his penis down her throat, making her choke, and that after trying to push him off, he only stopped after she hit him in the stomach. She says she was visibly upset after this incident. Brand made his name in comedy in the early 2000s and also achieved the status of London's most vivacious Lothario. After he gave up drugs in 2002, Brand filled that void with sex. In 2005, he received treatment for sex addiction at a clinic in the US. His womanizing ways, he once said he could sleep with 80 women in a month, saw him crowned Shagger of the Year by the Sun. I said that earlier. Didn't I? I said about the Shagger of the Year thing. I thought that fucking Yanks should have known him purely off the back of that. By the Sun 3 times, have relationships with some of the world's most beautiful women, including Kate Moss, and marry the pop star Katy Perry in 2010. They divorced in 2012. When Alice Brand met in 2006, he was becoming a household name as the host of Channel 4's Big Brother Big Mouth and a BBC radio presenter. She was 16, recovering from an eating disorder, and had never had a boyfriend. The other problem we've got as well is a lot of them, particularly these Matrix, Andrew Tate dick riding types, they will know Russell Brand for saying the vax gives you fucking, makes your heart explode, right? So they're going to see him of that nature. I don't think a lot of people will, that think of that of him, won't know what he was like back in the day. Like, I remember back in the day when he was on these shows, you know, and there's definitely, and the stories about him, the things he was getting up to. So obviously they're going to be viewing him as this like health guru that says the things that they agree with. So obviously, whilst again, it doesn't prove that he did anything, and obviously legal proceedings should certainly be issued and dealt with in this case. Yeah, I can definitely understand. I can definitely see a world where Russell Brand was doing, at the very least, questionable things with women based on the behavior and the reporting that was happening about him at the time. Exactly, like he was a sex degenerate, wasn't he? You know? Anyway, let's continue. He approached her in Leicester Square after she had been shopping at Topshop in Oxford Circus. Topshop is like American Apparel, UK edition. In Oxford Circus, and he had been working at a nearby studio. Alice recognised him from TV and had previously seen him do stand-up. He took my shopping bags from me, which was quite disarming, and proceeded to go through my purchases and to critique them. And then he took one dress out and said to me, "You're going to wear this on our date next week," she recalls. Well, he is a Rizzler. There's no denying that. He is a fucking Rizzler. That is some top tier Riz if ever I fucking heard it. Brand asked her to dinner and she later told her mother, who made Alice text Brand to tell him her age, assuming it would put him off. It didn't. Alice's mother was very upset, but did not feel she could control who her daughter met. See, this is this is kind of debunking my normal take, which is that normies would like freak out about a 30-year-old with a 16-year-old. But seemingly this mother was like, nothing I can know about it. If my daughter was 16 and was going to meet up with a celebrity that's 30, I'd put a stop to that immediately. Like, you're their parent. They're 16. Like, you can tell them no. Or you can explain, I don't know, you'd do something, wouldn't you? The age of consent in the UK is 16. So there's nothing legally wrong with what Russell Brand is doing. But generally it is kind of frowned upon at the very least in the UK. Like, if you were 30 and your mate was knocking about with a 16-year-old, you would call them a pedo. You'd be like, you fucking pedo. What you doing? You fucking you call them like a cradle snatcher and stuff like that. You call them like, you'd say they're like Jimmy Savile. You'd call them all the names under the sun. But this mum was just like, nothing I can do. Well, good luck to you. Fucking hell. I remember wearing a red wiggle dress and big platform shoes and had my hair blown out and was wearing makeup, Alice now remembers. But I didn't look like a woman by any means. I was a child that had got dressed up for dinner. On their first date, she claims Brand asked her as soon as they met to confirm she was definitely 16, saying, I don't give a fuck if you're 12. I need to know where I stand legally. Yeah, it's worth bearing in mind that this is all claims of, an allegation, essentially. So this person is just saying what happened. I don't know if we're going to get like proof of any of this because it's obviously stuff that happened in person. I don't know if we're going to get much evidence in the article, but I'm fairly certain we're going to see more stuff and interviews, etc., in this Dispatches documentary. During the earlier stages of their relationship, Alice says Brand was very charming and very attentive, sending her verbose messages. She remembers feeling giddy and special. Before the first time they had sex, Alice says she told him she was a virgin and claims he was instantly aroused. He was like, oh my God, my baby, my baby, my baby, and picked me up and cradled me in his arms like a child and was stroking my hair. He's like, you're like my little doll. She says he became preoccupied with her becoming innocent and pure. She claims that there was a large mirror on the wall, and she remembers during sex, he raised his arms above his head like this power stance, like he was conquering something. That is the fucking Patrick Bateman meme. He's doing the literal Patrick Bateman meme, apparently. Over the following weeks, Brown referred to her as the child, asked her to read Vladimir Nabokov's Lolita. Okay, and coached her on what to say to her parents when he wanted to see her, Alice says. Although Alice was over the age of consent in the UK, she and the family member who was also spoken to the Sunday Times to corroborate a story, both describes Brand's behaviour as grooming. Alice says he suggested how she could deceive her parents into allowing her to visit him, and claims that he gave her scripts on how to lie to them. Yeah, I mean, if this is true, that he was given her fucking scripts and shit. Jesus Christ. She also alleges that he told her not to trust her friends and that they would all be looking to make money from it if she revealed she was seeing him. It was isolating, she said. Russell engaged in the behaviours of a groomer looking back, but I didn't even know what that was back then or what that looked like, she says. Alice recalls that Brand told her never to send him sexual images, and she believed this was because of her age. Alice accuses Brand of being controlling. She says that he once ran a bath for her and demanded that she stay in it while he went out for about an hour. Another time, Alice alleges that Brand removed the condom during sex without her knowing. When he invited her over on his 31st birthday, Alice's mother insisted on driving her to emphasize to him that this was a girl with loving parents. When Alice's mother went to meet Brand on the doorstep, Alice says that he blocked the door and leant down and kissed my mother on the mouth. She says that afterwards her mother was very, very upset at Brand's behaviour and pleaded with Alice to come with her, but Alice chose to stay. God, it is... I am very judgmental of the mother. I'm extremely judgmental of the mother in this. I do also think though, what would you do? Would you like physically pick, I mean, a 16-year-old? How would you pick up a fucking 16-year-old and get, how would you get them to do what you want to do? I mean, to be honest with you, we should speak to Russell Brand about that. He seems to have some fucking expertise in the area. But like, if you're a parent, I mean, and a 16-year-old is saying, I don't want to do something. You believe this shit. Well, there's no evidence supplied so far. I don't know what to fucking believe is true about this. This person is recalling an event that happened many years ago. Memory is never perfect, right? As I've said multiple times, it's just someone saying something has happened. I think that there's likely some truth in this, right? I think that the parent here is an insane person for not doing something more, but I just don't really know, like, what else could you do? Like, I remember when I was 16 and I wanted to go to a bar and I try and get into bars and stuff, sometimes successful, sometimes not. Like, imagine the parent trying to stop you doing that. Anyway, let's continue. Towards the end of the relationship, Alice says that Brand sexually assaulted her. She says, I was sat up in my bed against the hard headboard and he forced his penis down my throat and I couldn't breathe. It was just choking me and I couldn't breathe and I was pushing him away and he wasn't backing off at all. She says, I ended up having to punch him really hard in the stomach to get him off. I was crying and he said, oh no, I only wanted to see your mascara run anyway. Oh man, some of this stuff does sound a bit like a caricature of what happened. But then, I don't know, I feel like I need to play you some clips of Russell Brand around that time because you probably only know him as this like quirky, anti-vax YouTuber or something like that. This guy was an absolute fucking freak at one point. Do you know what I mean? Maybe then you might be in a headspace to meaningfully receive this information, but yeah, I mean, again, it's difficult with all this stuff. When someone is saying something happened, it's impossible to prove one way or another, right? So you're left in a situation where it's like, well, you're saying something happened. If there's any corroborating evidence that can back this up, like messages from the time or something like that, that can obviously help, improve like a belief in it. But some of this stuff happened in like what was it, early 2000s? There weren't even like meaningful text message phones then, and even if there were, a phone from 2006 or whatever, you're not going to have that available to review messages and stuff on it. So some of this stuff is just going to be lost to time as well. And obviously, this is like the common problem with like historic accusations of abuse and rape and stuff like that. What's this?
Good job at the radio show.
Not really. The moments, there were flashes of inspiration, but overall it was a mess.
No.
Okay, maybe I want to get through the article. Maybe we can look at some other stuff later. Right, let's continue. Well, yeah, I mean, apparently there was it's like an open secret they claim in this article, but let's continue. Then I knew at that point that he didn't care about hurting me physically or emotionally. It shouldn't take you having to punch someone and to win them to get them off you. It shouldn't be a physical fight. As Alice lay on one side of the bed after the attack, she alleges that he climbed on top of her, held her open her mouth, and drooled into it. I was gagging and trying to fight him off me, but he's lying on top of me, so I can't, she alleges. My limbs are trapped underneath him, and I just thought, why are you doing this? There can't even be any sexual gratification in this. And then he held my mouth shut and made me swallow it, and I was just gagging and crying. Fuck. That sounds pretty insane. The relationship ended with when Brand invited her over one day, and she arrived to find another woman in his bed. I was so angry, and I said to him, why would you do this to me? This is so humiliating. Alice has decided to speak out because she now believes she was too young to be able to consent to a relationship with an adult man and that the law should be changed to protect those under 18. My mum still feels like she failed me in some way in allowing this to happen, but she has no recourse at all, she says. It shouldn't be legal for a 16-year-old to have a relationship with a man in their 30s. There should be something in place to protect children. She also wants the entertainment industry to change. For many years, Brand has been applauded for his jokes describing how he manipulated women for sex. I think he was very skillful in the art of making his identity be, I'm the womanizer, I'm a sex addict, I'm inappropriate, but it's all just a joke, it's funny, Alice claims. It's a smokescreen for a lot more of his dark behaviour. Jesus Christ. Look. It's so funny how his appearance has changed, isn't it? Do you remember this? His fucking hair all over the place and the stuff he wore. He was like the fucking swarthy, womanizing guy, and he was like, yeah, fucking boys, I'm fucking him left, right, and center. Da, 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 da. So funny how his image has changed. But yeah, the biggest claim from that, I think that I'm like, yeah, is the mum failing the person. What on earth? The thing is, how do you, like, The thing is you've got to hopefully get in there earlier, so hopefully a girl doesn't end up at 16 knocking about with a 30-year-old guy, right? Once again, it's a woman to blame. Yes, true. Where was the dad? Where was dad? The dad should have been more of a disciplinarian and sorted that shit out. Anyway, like I say, obviously lots of claims of things that are happening. Very difficult to prove one or another. But very troubling claims nonetheless. Let's continue on. We felt we were working as a pimp for him. During the early years of Brand's TV career as a Channel 4 presenter, there were repeated incidents which raised questions about his interactions with young women while working for them. TV researchers and runners who worked on Channel 4 shows during this period alleged that Brand would get staff to approach young female audience members so we could meet them after filming. Okay. 2 former crew members working for Big Brother's E-Forum, a live spin-off debate show presented by Brand that would become Big Brother's Big Mouth, separately claimed this made them feel like they were working as a pimp for Brand. So 2 former crew members coming forward separately to say this was happening. My basic take so far is the Times is a reputable media organization. Dispatches is a reputable, investigative news show. So far, we've only read claims about what's happened without any evidence. But then the stuff that's being claimed, you can't really supply evidence for one way or another. We're getting into this now, and it seems like 2 people separately are accusing him of this sort of pimp-like behavior. Of them asking him to be a pimp. Former sex addict, drug addict, around this time when he was on TV, he had a very kind of misogynistic, kind of nature and conversation, and he sort of played everything off about being a womanizer as a joke. Yeah. But we'll see. We'll read on. There's still quite a lot more to go. One says she remembers women calling her in tears after feeling they had been treated poorly by Brand. Another claims there were occasions she had to collect Brand from a hotel room and he appeared in his underwear and suggested having a quickie, and she could not tell if he was joking or not. She says Brand's behaviour was widely discussed by those working on the TV set. One runner, Rachel, who was just 24 at the time, says she once walked into Brand's dressing room and claims he flashed his penis at her. She alleges that Brand a runner is like right at the bottom of the totem pole. Right at the bottom of the totem pole of industry staff. A runner's paid. No, wait. I think runners are paid, but they're paid like an absolute pittance. And the hope is that they can get into the industry via that route, right? I'm thinking of, what's the other one where you don't get paid, but you work basically for free? An intern. Yes, an intern. A runner's a minimum wage job. Yeah. Okay. She alleges that Brand insinuated that she should give him oral sex. She was shocked and refused. She felt unable to tell anyone about what happened and was worried that if she complained, she would lose her job. She says Brand continued to pursue her, and at some time after, he asked her to visit his flat. Wait, what? Wait, hang on a minute. That took a turn. I thought it was going to be something else. She says Brand continued to pursue her, and then sometime after, he asked her to visit his flat, which she did. When she arrived, they kissed and had sex. Okay. Let's read on. They began a relationship, but she alleges he told her to keep it a complete secret. She claims Brand told her he had it written into his contract that he wasn't allowed to have any sexual contact with anyone working on Big Brother. Endemol said they have reviewed the contract and Brand did not have a clause pertaining to sexual relationships. Oh, so the claim is she's saying that she said to him, I've got this clause, keep it a secret, but Endemol didn't have any such clause in the contract. Okay. By the way, guys, you're saying, oh, post hoc rape. This isn't an allegation of rape here. I think this person is just claiming that, you know, they engaged in like inappropriate behavior. However, that being said, I don't like this CDO of allegation shit, you know? So I just don't really understand. This doesn't really feel like it's particularly necessary to include. This seems more just like inappropriate professional conduct than anything else. But anyway, a researcher claims Brand's behavior while working at eForum and Big Brother's Big Mouth was reported to production managers at Endemol, the company commissioned by Channel 4 to produce the shows. They alleged that they complained about Brand pursuing audience members for sex, but claims their concerns were dismissed. The researchers remembers being told by a talent manager, it's what happens with the talent. Boys will be boys. It's not a big deal. I mean, yeah, you. What was this? 2006. This was before the Jimmy Savile stuff, wasn't it? It was unfortunately a different time. You can very much imagine. You can very much imagine those kind of comments and conversations happening back then. But anyway, a spokesman for Banjay UK, who bought Endemol in 2020, said it has reviewed files and correspondence and could find no records of issues about Brand being raised formally or discussed with Endemol. It said, we take our duty of care to our cast, crew and staff extremely seriously. While the legacy company Endemol did have a code of conduct, support policies and escalation procedures in place during the period in question, they were not as robust as our current processes. We are sorry these women did not feel supported and protected while working on these productions, and in light of these serious allegations, encourage them to contact us in confidence. Who the fuck is this? Helen Berger. Okay. Brown would regularly have sex with women who he met at events. Two who went back to his home on separate occasions claim he became threatening and shouted at them when they refused to have intercourse with him. One left his home in tears. Helen Berger, who worked as Brand's personal assistant in 2006, says that during an interview for the job, she told one of his managers that she had a girlfriend. The manager later told her that her being gay was seen as a plus for the job. She believes the manager wanted to make sure that I would be safe. He just wanted a purely platonic situation. So they were literally wanting lesers. They were wanting fucking lesers hired in roles close to Brand, so he didn't try and fuck them, basically. Jesus. Allegedly. Listen, I appreciate, and I'm not saying that you should like accept all of the claims that are being made here as fact. Obviously, some of this is allegations, but I really just need you to understand that for a period of time in his career, there was a lot of controversy swirling around Brand as a womanizer sex addict, right? So, you know, it's when you understand that, even if you're not necessarily willing to get on board with the more extreme claims, it's very obvious that he had a problem with issues with women. So it's very probable that he behaved in a completely inappropriate way and his conduct was totally unacceptable, you know, that he engaged in, right? Do you see what I mean? It's like people want to sit here and they think of him as this quaint little, oh yeah, the vaccine's bad, guys. But no, like for a period of his life, there's definite probability that at least some of this, there's some truth in it, you know? Probable doesn't make it so. I just fucking said that, you total deranged retard. I literally just fucking said to you. Yeah, you're not necessarily going to get on board with all of it. I'm not saying believe it all. God, you people are so annoying. Literally, do you know what's annoying, right? that you've got two sides when it comes to this sort of thing. On the one side, you've got people that are waiting to just say, yes, it's rape and it definitely happened and this person raped and da-da-da-da-da. But then on the other side, you've got a bunch of mouth-breathing idiots that are just sat there and they're like, no matter what you're presented with, you could show and broadcast footage of Russell Brand pinning down someone with a knife and raping them, and they'd be like, where's the evidence? I don't see any evidence here. Like, listen, don't become fucking belief cucked in one way or another. Just look at what's going on and take it from there. But keep an open mind when you're looking at this stuff both ways. Don't lock yourself into this idea of like, it definitely didn't happen and none of this is true, right? Okay, listen, I'm going to have to fucking ban you. 9 month sub getting banned. There we go. No, I'll time you out. I changed my mind. I'm going to time you out for a bit, okay? You need a timeout to fucking think about your retardation. I can't ban a 9 month sub. That's too much. That's too much, okay? That's too much. That's 9 months. Come on. That's decent. Anyway, let's continue. Do not have an opinion. Oh, not a sub. Oh, yeah. Not looking good for you. You're just banned. See you later. You can have an opinion, okay? But when I'm saying to you, hey, don't fucking go extreme to one side and just be in a position where you're just denying everything and saying none of it's true. That's all I'm saying. And they responded with some retarded comment. Anyway, let's continue. Right. Now, any more rape apologists want to get fucking banned? Then let's go, okay? No, this is not about rape apologia today, okay? Anyway, let's continue. Burgess says that Brand was a narcissist and would often only wear underwear while she worked. She also remembers Brand openly showing his friends intimate pictures of women. Once, while in Edinburgh for the festival and in a bar, she saw Brand showing pictures like these to friends. She says, I leant in. As he's going through these pictures, he gets to a picture of somebody I knew. It did something to me. It made me feel really sick to my stomach. These are women who aren't expected to be shown to the dude's friends. I actually had this experience once at work before, right? Where it was kind of out of nowhere. I've told you a bit about some of the tomfoolery with Kofi, haven't I? Some of the tomfoolery that was going on with Kofi. But there was another time where this dude, he was like, you know, not quite as well liked in the office. But he just randomly started showing pictures of his like long-term girlfriend naked to people in the office. And it was just like, you know, it's a bit weird, isn't it? Like, why would you do that? That's such a weird thing to do. Obviously, some of the pervs were fucking up for it. But, you know, a few of us were like, that was a bit weird. Why did you do that? I would never fucking show you pictures of my missus naked. That's mental. And this was before the OnlyFans sort of kicked off as well. So it was before all that business was going on. Kofi, yeah, big black guy from Ghana, libertarian, told me a story once about how when he lived in Ghana, there was a thief in the village and a bunch of people didn't wait for the police or anything like that. And, you know, a bunch of villagers got a bunch of sticks with nails in and beat him to death. Anyway, getting back to this. Liliana Dalla Piana, a highly experienced celebrity assistant who worked with Brand between December 2007 and January 2008, says that she believes she was hired by his managers because she was nearer to his mother's age than his. She recalls that at her interview, Brand said that he liked to walk around with nothing on, or sometimes just a long kaftan with nothing underneath. Dalla Piana remembers replying, I've got a son who's older than you. I've seen it all. Oh my God. This kind of like, I don't know what you'd call it, right? But this idea of like walking around naked and stuff like that. I feel like this kind of celebrity degeneracy was like so normalized back during that time where you'd have celebrities just doing crazy shit like this. And although obviously, yes, I've got a lot of criticism of some of the extremities that we've reached with Me Too, I think one of the positive influences that it's had is that celebrities don't tend to do this kind of wacky shit anymore. You know, I don't think it's permissible now that a celebrity would be like, if you want to work with me, I walk around naked sometimes. People would be like, yeah, no, that's fucking, you can't do that. That's mental, you know? Yeah, like there's like at least some like base level of conduct, a professional conduct that I think has been achieved, which you know, is probably a good thing, if anything. Like, just because you're personal assistant with someone, you shouldn't have to go to their fucking place and they're fucking wandering around naked and shit like that. That's like just insane, degenerate behaviour. Brown would go on to be hired by the BBC, first on BBC Six Music in April 2006, before he was moved to Radio 2 that November. He often courted controversy, accumulating in the Sasha Gate scandal. In October 2008, Brand and his co-presenter Jonathan Ross made prank calls to the actor Andrew Sachs, who had played Manuel in Fawlty Towers, leaving a lewd message on his answer phone. Brand hinted at a relationship with Sachs's granddaughter, Georgina Bale, prompting Ross to declare, "He fucked your granddaughter." Okay, that is just boys being boys, though. Come on. Oh yeah, obviously it's it's bad for the guy, but that's a funny fucking thing that happened. God, I remember that happening. I remember watching that like live, like all the fucking shit about it, which Sachs did not know about. When the scandal emerged, Gordon Brown, then Prime Minister, criticised the broadcast, and both Brand and the station's controller, Leslie Douglas, resigned from the BBC, which was fined £150,000 by Ofcom. The BBC admitted the editorial standards have been broken. It's funny, isn't it, how like Twitch and stuff like that, it kind of replicates like TOS stuff and people doing inappropriate things and getting banned and how that's developed. It's funny, isn't it, how it sort of replicates it. Right, anyway, we got our first video in this. Let's have a look. Oh, it's not going to play because of the fucking archive link, because times you've got to pay to look at. If anyone can access the video, let me know. Anyway. Here we go. He's grabbing at my underwear. I'm telling him to get off. Following the scandal, Brand moved to LA, where he focused on a Hollywood film career and a new American TV show. He remained in LA after his marriage to Perry failed in 2012. At a party one night, he met Nadia, a businesswoman who was then in her 30s. They exchanged numbers and Brand later got in touch and they began texting and talking on the phone. She said they met up in June 2012 at his house in LA and went on to have consensual sex, but she got unsettled by his glazed over look. That was probably because he was just fucking hopped up on some drugs, to be honest with you. He was a fucking massive drug addict, wasn't he? He does this thing when he glazes over. I don't know what's going on in his head, she says. It was fine, but it was a weird first-time experience with someone when you're having sex with them for the first time. Not in 2012. This is after the drug stuff. During one text exchange, Brand suggested that Nadia bring a friend. Oh, hey, Spaniard, how's it going? They then met again in the early hours of the morning of July 1st, when she arrived at his house after he had pleaded with her to come over. When I walked in, the door was unlocked and I just walked in, Nadia says. He comes running out of his bedroom naked, and I'm kind of taken aback. I've got a bag on my shoulder, a little dress, and a coat on top. Nadia says Brand took her to a wall and kissed her and made a comment, something along the lines of, "I'll keep you safe." He then told her that a friend was already in the bedroom and that he wanted her to join him, according to Nadia. Man, oh God. I hope that there's a rape that happens in a minute, because some of this stuff is just so like, oh, God, okay. There's some stuff here which I just don't, like that in itself, I just don't really care that much about. But let's see, maybe there's a rape that happens. I'm like, no, that's not happening. I don't care. That's not happening. We're not doing that, she says. I tried to get away from him and I slipped away from the wall. And then, oh no, oh no. Oh no, I've done it. I've done the classic. I've paused Andy the article. It's about to happen, isn't it? And then I went to another wall that had a painting on it, a huge painting, and my bag got actually stuck underneath that, and it's still on my arm. And at this point, he's grabbing at my underwear, pulling it to the side. Nadia alleges that she told Brand to get off her and that she wanted to leave, but he carried on. I'm stuck underneath the painting and he's pushing up against me, she says. He's a lot taller than me and he has that glazed look in his eye again. Like an automaton. And I can't... Okay, we shouldn't laugh. Come on, this is serious. And I can't move. And I told him, get off, get off. Nadia claims that Brand pushed her up against the wall and raped her without a condom. Jesus. Brand finally finished and she says she pushed him away. And then he blocks the door, and I've come into because he doesn't want me going. Nadia says, he's like, are you okay? I'm like, no, I'm not okay. You need to get away from me. And he's like, let's calm down. Nadia says that Brand eventually stepped away from the door he had been blocking after Nadia told him she wanted to use the bathroom. I ran out and I jumped in my car. Thank God I didn't park in his driveway and booked it out of there, she says. That was it. I sat on the road a little bit longer. I was in a daze. At 3:29 a.m., Brand sent Nadia a text message. He wrote, I'm sorry, that was crazy. Oh my God. I'm sorry, that was crazy and selfish. I hope you can forgive me. I know that you're a lovely person. He tried phoning at 3:51 a.m., but the call was unanswered. Oh no. No! Is he fucking self-snitching? I'm sorry, that was crazy and selfish. I hope you can forgive me. I know that you're a lovely person. You scared the shit out of me. You're right, I am a lovely person, and for you to take advantage of me like that is unacceptable. You have a problem, you need help. It's dangerous that you think you can get your own way all the time. Do you know how scary you are when your glazed look comes over you? When a girl says no, it means no. Do I have to go get myself tested? Last time you asked me, condom or no condom. When I say condom, that doesn't mean it's optional. You don't have the best reputation. I pride myself on being safe and trying to make the right decision. Obviously, this was a bad one. I'm so disappointed. Brand bros. Brand bros. I don't feel so good. Oh no. I'm very sorry. You don't need to get tested. I will make this up to you somehow with love and kindness, not my original idea, which was more sex. You've been lovely to me, and I've been embarrassed by my behavior. Sorry. Will you ever forgive me? So, one thing to bear in mind, and to be careful with, okay, is this follows an allegation, right? Now, all you can really take away from this message is that something happened, right? So I just want to make it clear that I'm not saying that this like necessarily proves that this exactly happened as it said, but at the very least it shows that he engaged in some sort of behavior of a sexual nature that didn't involve using a condom. Did you see what I'm trying to get at, right? Like clearly there was a sexual interaction that was very, very bad, right? And it definitely lends credence to the story the woman is telling. And the other problem that you've got as well is, you know, it doesn't like explicitly say, and these things don't always like, it's quite unusual that you would message someone and be like, you just raped me. And they go, yes, I did just rape you. Sorry about that, you know? But obviously the tone of these messages certainly lend credence to the idea that Brand engaged in some sort of sexual act with her of one flavor or another, that at the very least, you know, during she said she didn't want to continue with, right? Like when a girl says no, it means no. Do you see what I mean? So this looks pretty bad for Brand Bros. Will you ever forgive me? Wait, I think none of the texts having emojis shows seriousness. I mean, in fairness, I don't think emojis were quite as popular back in 2012. Fuck, man, that's... I like Russell Brand before his fucking weirdo vaccine shit. I like Russell Brand. So like I'm reading this from the early day. I've got like nostalgia vision when it comes to Russell Brand. So I'm reading this and I don't want Russell Brand to be a raper. I don't want Russell Brand to have done terrible things. But then I'm reading this and I'm like, yeah, this is pretty damning, you know, information that he sent these messages in the way that they are. Because the thing is like, you know, you might have an interaction and you apologize for it. And say, for example, you have an argument and then afterwards you talk about it and you're like, oh, I'm sorry that happened. And they say, yeah, it's fine. Da, da, da. Like you could frame that as a rape if you're willing to be dishonest and stuff like that. But the way that these text messages are, you cannot get around the fact that some sort of sex act occurred and she expressed that she didn't want to engage in it based on what she says, based on his apologetics and so on. Do you see what I mean? Like, you can't get around that. It's impossible to get around that. The only possible way that you can get around that is if this series of messages is fake. It's not like you can look at it and go, maybe he's apologizing for some other thing that happened. No, what he's apologizing for is some sort of unwanted sexual interaction that happened, right? You can't really get around that, unfortunately. So yeah, that's a pretty damning series of messages there for Brand. You know, it kind of reminds me of like some of the, and this is where people are going to do the Tate thing. Isn't this the same thing as the Twitter guy who you hardcore defended? Well, first of all, that doesn't really narrow it down. And secondly, where? When did that happen? When have I ever defended someone that has a series of text interactions that look like this? Can you point that out to me? Yeah, but there wasn't any messages with Don that looked anything like this. The random Twitter guy who apologized for unwanted advances when he was drunk. Okay, well, if you know the specific, I mean, I speak about a lot of this stuff, but anyway, let's not dwell on that. Let's try and get through this fucking article. There's more yet. Nadia says she was up most of the night. She never replied to Brand's text until 10:59 a.m. She wrote that he had taken advantage of her and scared the shit out of me. She wrote in a text to Brand, do you know how scary you are when you get the glazed look comes over? When a girl says no, it means no. Do I have to go and get myself tested? Brand replies that he was very sorry and wrote, you don't need to get tested. I will make this up to you somehow with love and kindness. Not my original idea, which is more sex. You've been lovely to me and I'm embarrassed by my behavior. Sorry, X. The US phone number that Brand used to send the messages has been verified by multiple sources. Okay. Right. Let's continue. Nadia, meanwhile, had a close friend told a close friend what had happened, and she took her to the rape treatment center at UCLA Santa Monica Medical Center that same day. She has shared a full copy of her treatment records, which state that she provided her underwear and other samples of evidence which were frozen. An officer from the LAPD was alerted by the center, according to the notes, but she chose not to make a police report. Okay. Always make a police report. Always make a police report. Saying to the center she didn't think my words would mean anything up against his. The notes also state she was worried that if her assailant's name is somewhere released. The notes also state that she was worried that if her assailant's name is somehow released, that her name will be dragged through the dirt. Nadia had therapy at the clinic for the following 5 months. During her therapy sessions, records show that Nadia was contemplating criminal or civil proceedings before ultimately deciding against it. However, she wrote Brand a letter, hoping to regain some of her power in the process. Her note said, and she says she sent it to his house. In the letter, she asked, do you know what you put me through, my body through? You scared the shit out of me on July 1st. I thought in any situation I'd be strong enough to fight someone off. You completely broke me down. Actually, that's a good point by Jacob. That is worth bearing in mind. Is we're obviously looking at this through the lens of like Me Too and everything that's happened with Me Too, and also some of the extremities that have happened with Me Too as well. This was in 2012, and also it was before even like I think the Jimmy Savile stuff came out too. So I think I can imagine that at that time, you know, you probably did feel like you were powerless when like a celebrity did anything, you know. So yeah, that's a fair point. even so, you know, regardless, you can't do anything about obviously this situation. You would report it, but that's for the future, really. You know, I think for the past stuff, you can't really say anything more than ideally it would have been reported. But there's obviously, you know, other information here, and again, enough information that would have been verified for the BBC. Like the fact that she went to this rape crisis center, the text messages, you know, this is verified information by the organization. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know how you get around that, really. Brown is accused of rape on July 1st, 2012. 6 weeks later, he performed at the Olympics closing ceremony in London. Yeah, exactly. Like if she was lying about what happened, she would have had to do all of that stuff back in 2012 to like I don't know, like it's highly unlikely. It's highly unlikely that the facts of the matter she's being dishonest about or whatever. You know, obviously her account of events, who knows the truth of what happened in the room. But certainly the facts of the matter, you can't really argue with that. And certainly those messages are very fucking damning. Anyway, let's continue. I was fighting and screaming so hard. Brand kept building his career in America. The following year, another woman claimed she was the victim of a sexual assault at Brand's house. Phoebe, who was in her 20s, says she met Brand at an Alcoholics Anonymous meeting before they started working together, and that she had a brief sexual relationship with him, which had ended by the time of the alleged attack in early 2013. Phoebe says the team, working on a project with Brand at the time, worked from different locations, including his property in West Hollywood. Oh, by the way, sorry, I do want to say one thing, actually. I know I've been a bit, you know, ban happy. I've only banned one person and timed out someone else. If you are more of the side of having more skepticism about these allegations that are made, right? The question I would have for you is, what is your response to those messages? Which to me seem to clearly indicate, at the very least, a sexual interaction not involving a condom that the woman didn't want to have. What is your response to those messages? Because I just don't know how else, you know, if you want to present an alternative, I'm happy to fucking hear it, but I don't know how else to interpret what we just looked at there. Fake messages. Okay. Well, if that's the level, okay. So we're just going to claim it's fake, basically. Are we just redoing the fucking tape memes? Oh, well, yeah, they're just fake, aren't they? Totally made up out of nothing. Okay, got it. Fake, innit? I'm telling you, the Tates have done disastrous impact on the whole discourse about this because they've just pushed this idea. They just said, oh, it's all bullshit, actually, and that's it. They lie about what it is they're accused of and they say it's all bullshit. That's it. Case closed. Right, anyway, come on. We've got a new allegation to look at, okay? Phoebe says that, okay. Brief sexual relationship with him, which had ended by the time of the alleged attack in early 2013. Phoebe says the team working on a project with Brand at the time worked from different locations, including from his property in West Hollywood. She was at his house when she realised that a member of his staff had gone out and they were alone. She describes being trapped in a bedroom and realising that Brand wanted to have sex with her. She says she can't remember whether he was naked or in his underwear, but that he ended up naked at some point and started chasing her. It sounds like a fucking Benny Hill sketch. It sounds like a funny fucking Benny Hill. Anyway, this is serious. Don't laugh. She claims he grabbed me and got me on the bed. She claims he tried to kiss her and remove her clothes as he pinned her down. Phoebe says, and I saw something come over his eyes. I swear to God, like black. His eyes had no more colour. They were black like the devil. Like a different person literally entered his body. Is that the glaze? Is that the glaze that's being spoken about? She was fully clothed. I mean, to be honest with you, if this was not someone who's criticised the vaccine, all of the rightoid dipshit populists that are currently defending Brand would say that that's a sign of the demonic possession that happens in Hollywood, wouldn't they? So, you know, but they're too invested in the other conspiracy that this is all a Matrix attack coming for Brand that unfortunately they can't get into the other conspiracy, which is that all Hollywood fucking people are pedo demon fucking people or whatever. Anyway, continue. Let's continue. I was screaming and I was like, what are you doing? Stop, please. You're my friend. I love you. Please don't do this. I don't want to do this. I think he had his hands down my trousers, but I was fighting so hard and I was screaming so hard, hoping that I could get through somehow. She says, I don't know what the actual definition of sexual assault is, but it feels like that. He didn't rape me. She says she kept begging him to get off her and eventually he relented, at which point she says he flipped and was super angry. Phoebe says Brand was shouting, fuck you and you're fired, and she says she fled Brand's home in tears, stopping only to grab her shoes before running barefoot to the car. As she left, Phoebe says she passed a group of people who had arrived at the house for a meeting about the project. Years later, she says she met one of the people who had been in this group. She says, he pulled me aside and he said to me, I've never forgiven myself for not running in that house to save you. I heard you screaming and I didn't know what to do. And we were all so scared of him and I didn't do anything and I'm sorry. The Times attempted, Jesus Christ. The Times attempted to contact the person but did not respond. Yeah, I don't know if there's anything further with this. Phoebe, who was friends with what had happened to her, felt forced to return to work in the days afterward, but she claims that Brand, after becoming aware of that allegation, cornered her and threatened her with legal action. I'm telling you, I feel like my gut feeling on that Russell Brand legal action thing is right. I think that this is, I can very much envision him doing stuff like this. And I think we've, you know, again, we're sort of a bit fatigued with the Me Too stuff, but you need to remember that, you know, wealthy celebrities absolutely will take advantage of the legal system to silence people that are perhaps saying something truthful about them. Phoebe did not formally report. It's okay. The messages are fake. The sound's fake. Everything's just fake. Anyway, let's continue. Phoebe did not formally report the incident as she feared that her career would be affected. 3 separate sources confirmed that she had told them about the allegation at the time, with 2 more were also aware of it. A short time later, Brand left the US and moved back to the UK. So there's no further information about that. No text messages for that one. A short time later, Brand left the US and moved back to the UK. It was then that serious allegations about the conduct behind closed doors first came public. In 2014, an ex-girlfriend, Jordan Martin, wrote about their relationship in a self-published book, K-Not, Entanglement with a Celebrity, in which she names Brand Randall Grand. Come on, now you're not even... Come on now. And herself, Dina. She declined to be interviewed for this investigation due to personal family circumstances, but has confirmed that she stands by her account in the book and says it is an accurate depiction of their relationship. Brand has never challenged her on its content. Okay. I guess because it's Randall Grand. Who's going to know who that is, eh? Brand and Martin had a 6-month relationship from February 2007, during which they briefly lived together. In the book, Martin describes being sexually assaulted by Brand and Brand being physically and emotionally abusive towards her. The alleged assault occurred at the Lowry Hotel in Manchester. She describes how Brand became angry when he found out that she had spoken to an ex-boyfriend, snatching a phone from her, ripping the case apart and pulling out the battery. To be fair, to be absolutely fair, do you know what happens if you let your missus speak to your exes? That is an absolute nightmare waiting to happen. Yeah, also, people are probably thinking like, what? How'd you pull a battery out of a phone? Yes, back in those days, you could pull the battery out of the phone. That isn't, they're all encased now, aren't they? Martin writes about how she then walked away from Brand and was standing at a sink in a room when he came up behind her. In a book, she described how Brand does not say a word. He stands so close to her. He slides his hand down the front of her low-hanging jeans into her underwear and forces a finger inside of her. All right, Jesus. Martin writes about how she was not ready for this intrusion and did not find it sensual or pleasant. After that, Brand allegedly walked out of her room silently, leaving her feeling confused, uncomfortable, and a little stunned. She also describes how how he once forced her to brush her teeth so hard that her gums bled, so she would taste anonymous to him. Martin writes that Brand pushes boundaries, controlling other people to fulfill personal perversions for the sake of dominance, for the sake of something. Okay, we're about three-quarters of the way through. And I just want to remind everyone who's watching, thank you for watching today as we cover this. We're having a great time. If you want to support the stream, it is appreciated. Chuck a sub my way if you want to avoid the ads. Bits are good, and you can say whatever you want. You can call me a cuck for believing women if you like. Yeah, you can say whatever you like. My take three-quarters of the way through is there's some pretty damning stuff in this, and I'm also hopeful that the video that is released by Dispatches has more information in, because the only criticism I had of the article is it's a bit light on the hard info. But then I think people need to remember that when it comes to these sorts of reports, you know, people stupidly trust the mainstream media. So when they say they verify things, that's to be trusted. Obviously, if you want to convince people that are fucking black-pilled on the mainstream media, you probably need to show more. But those text messages are pretty bad. Well, my guess is that this is going to be, here's information about, and then there's going to be more info in the show. They'll probably direct people to the show at the end, because it's a joint investigation. They would have agreed on how they were going to release this. Anyway, let's continue. Alarming displays of aggression. Brand's attitude towards women became an open secret in radio and TV production, according to sources. Many felt the BBC should have been awake to the concerns about Brand's on-air behaviour well before the Saxgate scandal. While hosting his BBC radio show on Six Music, he and his co-host Matt Morgan would sometimes undress in the studio and encourage guests to do likewise. This is all to promote a show. No, you fucking idiot. This report is a co-investigation with a show that does investigative reporting. It's not to promote this new show that's coming out. It's to promote the other aspect of this, which is the video report on this. It's not just like, oh, we got a new show to promote. Oh, Russell Brand did a rape. Come and watch our new show tonight. Da, 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 da. It's not like that, okay? When contacted by the Times and Sunday Times, Morgan said, I stopped working with Russell Brand several years
Chud
ago.
Nation.
Hey, Evermore, thank
Cheers,
you for the
Chud.
sub. Appreciate it. I stopped working with Russell Brand several years ago. During the time I worked with him, I was never aware of any allegations of serious sexual misconduct against him. I absolutely condemn all forms of mistreatment of women. Looking back on that time I spent working on radio at the BBC, I'm regretful to learn that a show I was part of made colleagues uncomfortable at times. In July 2008, Ofcom, the communications regulator... God, I tell you what, some of my regular chatters have turned themselves out to be total retards. This is what they spent 4 years investigating. Not corporate or government corruption. They investigated Russell Brand's ex-girlfriends. You realise that the press can do multiple things at once. You realise they do report on those exact things. They report on government corruption. They report on corporate corruption as well. This is just another string to the bow. In July 2008, Ofcom, the communications regulator, fined the BBC £17,500 for a serious breach of its code after finding that Brand's show on Six Music had faked a competition winner. During the radio chat, hi Tony, chat owns you. No, it's fine. I like all my regulars. Okay, do you know what it's like? It's a bit like when let's say you have a bar, and you got one person that comes in. Normally they're fine, but then when you start talking about the Jews, they start piping up a bit with some weirdo conspiracy shit, and you have a bit of a debate about it, right? But then the next day they come in and it's fine. You know, it's all part of the banter, isn't it? You know. During other Radio 2 episodes, Brand made a series of sexual remarks about the newsreader Andrea Simmons, describing her on air as erotic and a sex bomb, and telling listeners that he would like to go under the desk while she was reading the news. Several times after this, it is implied that Brand was forced to apologise by BBC production staff. Hey! Yo, they got Savile in. We're bringing Savile into the mix. In May 2007, Brand called Jimmy Savile, who suggested the pair could meet if Brand brought along a sister. Brand doesn't have a sister, so instead offered to bring a female employee, agreeing on Savile's request that she should be naked. Are you telling me that all your newish followers are Nazis? Yes, that is what I'm saying. But also, it is only a few people. I think most people are on board with at least, you know, thinking that Russell Brand is somewhat raped, at the very least. Jeez, is that a thing that happened? I can't remember this happening. I've got, anyway, come on, we're nearly through it. I've got a personal assistant, he said, and part of her job description is that anyone I demand she greet, meet, massages, she has to do it. She's very attractive, Jimmy. This was 4 years before Savile's death and 5 years before details of the Jim Will Fix It presenter's crimes were exposed. There is no video yet. That's not out till later. I'm going to watch that on stream tomorrow. So, yeah. The video is for tomorrow's stream. According to insiders who were working for BBC Radio at the time, complaints were made about Brand's behaviour in the studios to Leslie Douglas, then the BBC's controller for Radio 2 and Music 6, but nothing appeared to be done as a result. In December 2007, another serious complaint was made by BBC staff to Leslie Douglas about Brand's behaviour in the Radio 2 studio. Sources who were involved said the complaint was made after an alarming display of aggression and disrespect by Brand in the studio, which included Brand hurling objects across the studio in fits of rage. Oh, the Times has released a video companion to this 31 minutes ago. Damn, this is real fucking breaking news shit, isn't it? Thank you. We'll look at that after this. Thank you very much. I'm going to watch the whole Dispatches thing tomorrow on stream. We're going to really react to it though, so it's, you know, fair enough. A little bit cheeky, but, you know, it'll be fine. What's this?
That to be true.
Okay, we got that too. We got that too to look at. We got that too, guys. We got it all. We're lining it up. We're lining it up. Okay, wait. Brand hurling across the studio in fits of rage and urinating in a bottle in full view of everyone. Brand had done this, the sources said, in front of the production staff and guests, including a young person who appeared to be a minor and had been sent to appear on Radio 2 by a charity. This alleged complaint and any others that had been made were not mentioned in subsequent official reports into Saxgate. A spokesman for the BBC said it had clear expectations and policies around conduct and work and had taken the Jonathan Ross Radio 2 incident incredibly seriously. He said, we hope that this demonstrates that the BBC takes the issue seriously and is prepared to act. Indeed, we would add that in addition to acting on the serious editorial breach at the time, the BBC has, over successive years, evolved its approach to how it manages talent and indeed how it deals with complaints or issues raised. We will always listen to people if they come forward with any concerns on any issue related to any individual working at the BBC, past or present. Lawyers representing Douglas said, Ms. Douglas had not at any time encouraged, enabled and or failed herself to take any adequate steps within her power with regard to the conduct of Russell Brand or of which she was aware. She is presently unable to provide any further information which may be relevant to the matters raised in this article due to the obligations owed to her due to the obligations owed by her to her former employer. Alice, who later worked at Channel 4, recalled a meeting in late 2013 or early 2014 which Brown was pitched as a host of a show, but concerns about his behaviour was flagged. The solution that was offered was that we would take the female staff out of the crew. That's fucking mental, man.
Welcome to Chud Nation.
Right, we can't have any women around Brand. He's too much of a risk. Make it all fellas. Women that have worked hard to get into this industry now can't work on particular shows because of fear that they might be assaulted or harassed. I was in disbelief. What about the men, though? Well, men were also going to be working on the show. You would never have an all-female crew. But obviously men weren't at risk because Russell Brand wasn't... He was a womanizer, not a manizer. It was only women that were a threat. And obviously, yeah, it's completely reasonable to be like, hang on a minute. You know, you've got these female staff, and the solution is not to get a fucking handle on Russell Brand's behaviour. It is, we just don't have any women working on the show. He's not actually gay. Anyway, come on. Brand continued to be given opportunities by mainstream broadcasters in the UK, including on Channel 4. In 2019, he appeared on a celebrity edition of Bake Off. He baked biscuits inspired by the genitals of his wife, Laura Gallagher. What the fuck? But yeah, I think, you know, obviously the BBC got a very raw deal in terms of scrutiny when it came to the Jimmy Savile allegations. But, you know, make no mistake, other broadcasters were likely very similar. You know, this is a pervasive problem that's existed in media where if someone's talent, they can get away with a lot, you know? So I think that there's also plenty of criticism to be had for Channel 4 here, because Jesus Christ, like what, you know. And the thing is again, I don't know if there's going to be any hard proof of this, but you can absolutely imagine back, you know, before some of the Me Too, Jimmy Savile kind of stuff coming through, you know, strongly, you can definitely see situations where there'd be, you know, presenters that were behaving in certain ways, and the solution was to remove women or something like that, rather than to actually deal with the issue at hand. Now it has changed quite a bit. So anyway, come on. A spokesman for Channel 4 said, Channel 4 was appalled to learn of these deeply troubling allegations, including behaviour alleged to have taken place on programmes made for Channel 4 between 2004 and 2007. We're determined to understand the full nature of what went on. We've carried out extensive document searches and have found no evidence to suggest that alleged incidents were brought to the attention of Channel 4. See, this is the other problem as well, is, and this was the case, I believe, with Jimmy Savile too, is a lot of this stuff, there wasn't ever documented evidence necessarily at the BBC of what happened with Jimmy Savile, because it was all handled and dealt with in conversations and stuff like that, right? And it's only like detailed, in-depth investigation, interviews, conversations, etc., that the truth of Jimmy Savile ended up coming to light, and everyone realised, oh yeah, this guy was a massive nonce, and he was being protected by the BBC. So, yeah, it's difficult because some of this stuff could have easily been dealt with in like closed door conversations that weren't recorded and stuff like that. So, I mean, hopefully some of the organizations do more of a detailed review and we'll see what's what. And that's another point as well, is these organizations are potentially going to want to be covering their asses too. So, you know, I think the best outcome of this would be just a investigation by all parties involved to get to the bottom of some of these claims and see if there is, you know, more credible kind of stuff floating about in these organizations that can be put forward for maybe some sort of legal case. But yeah, it's not looking good, Brand Bros. Not looking good either, Channel 4 Bros. Because yeah, some of this stuff's pretty damning for Channel 4 too. Mind you, Channel 4 is now obviously releasing an investigate this dispatches thing about it, isn't it? Anyway, we'll continue to review this in light of any further information we receive, including the accounts of those affected individuals. We will be asking the production company who produced the programs for Channel 4 to investigate these allegations and report their findings properly and satisfactorily to us. It's said that in the many years since the incidents emerged, there have been extensive change in Channel 4's management, and it's committed to ensuring TV industry is safe and inclusive. A spokesman for John Knoll Management, the agency that represented Brand from 2002 to 2017, said that for legal reasons on which they cannot elaborate, they were not in a position to respond to questions. Oh boy. Anyway, we're getting near the end now, and then we'll look at some of these videos. Female comedians have warned for years. For this investigation, journalists were in touch with dozens of comedians who have worked with Brand. A female comedian said that in the early 2000s, when they gigged together, Brand chased her around backstage and bit her on the face, despite her making clear she was uncomfortable. Whenever he saw me, he would grab me and bite my face, and it was coupled up with this weird, horrible energy, she recalls. I said to him, I don't like this, and he still did it so much before he stopped. It was him crossing boundaries. She also witnessed his behavior at parties. He was like the Predator from the 1987 sci-fi film. He would show up and you'd see him scan the room, who he hadn't slept with, who he was going to sleep with. He would never have got to Hollywood. His behavior should have stopped that, but he was able to become a Hollywood star and do so well out of it. I would say that a more apt 80s sci-fi comparison would be The Terminator, because the Predator didn't actually like scan for information. They sort of scanned the surroundings and looked around as they were hunting their prey. But it was actually in Terminator, the T-800 cyborg, using their advanced CPU processor system, would actually document and track people as they looked at them, even been able to establish purely on the basis of looking at them whether they were the correct clothing size for them. So I don't know why she's invoking such a stupid and obviously incorrect reference to an 80s sci-fi film when there's another perfectly adequate, much better sci-fi references she could make. What an idiot. She's probably lying. Okay. Yeah, classic woman analogy, am I right? Listen, I'm finding it hard to hate women in this, so we need to get it in there somewhere, all right? Yeah, she's thinking of the infrared vision, but that didn't give you any information about the target. It just showed you if it was dark or whatever. Anyway, let's continue. Daniel Sloss was the only comedian willing to speak on the record and using his real name. He says he first heard rumors about Brand's behavior on the comedy circuit more than 10 years ago. Sloss says that female comedians have set up online groups that they use to warn each other of comedians and others working in the comedy industry who they have unpleasant experiences with, including predatory behavior. Sloss says, I know for many, many years that women have been warning each other about Russel. He said, I know there are comedians who have made references and jokes to Russell's alleged crimes, and have either been asked or told not to do those jokes anymore. Hearsay, obviously, but damn. In recent years, Brand has reinvented himself again. He promotes himself as a wellness guru to an estimated 28 million followers across social media, podcasts, and a live festival. He has become known for discussing conspiracy theories while offering advice on subjects such as relationships and addiction. You just know that giga retards are going to point to this and use this to say, look, it's the Matrix attacking. They're going after him for the fucking conspiracy theories. When all they're doing is just laying out what he's doing now. I'm telling you guys, take my word for it, don't take my word for it. Regardless of what your opinion is on these allegations and what you think about it, right? The Times is a credible news org. I know you want to do the fucking everything's the mainstream media and it's bad. You know, this seems like a pretty robust, well put together article. At the very least, whether or not you agree with the contents. I think you have to be a complete conspiracy brain rotted idiot to actually unironically suggest that this is some sort of Matrix attack coming against him. But of course, what's Brand done? He's primed that response, hasn't he? He's primed that response because in his YouTube video, he's talking about Joe Rogan and shit like that and how the mainstream media come for people. He has primed that response just like the fucking Tates did. Exactly the same principle in terms of talking about it being like a coordinated attack, you know? Anyway, let's continue. Yes, the Times is right-leaning. It definitely leans more towards the conservative side of the aisle than the progressive side. In late 2020, Alice, who is now happily married, contacted Brand's literary agent Anger Hardwood, the co-founder of Tavistock Wood, which is owned by talent agency Curtis Brown. Alice said she told Brand's representatives what he did to her when she was 16 because she hoped he had changed and she wanted an apology, at the very least, for them to know the type of man they were representing. She says she was told Brand was away at a wellness retreat, but that she would get a response. Alice eventually did hear back from a lawyer acting for Brand who denied her allegations. It was very aggressive, said very clearly I was after money and implied it was almost blackmail that I was doing, she says. I've never mentioned money. The lawyer was the only person that's ever mentioned money. She replied to Brand's lawyer, emphasizing that she was sharing the truth and never asked for money. I spent too long recovering from these acts to have been dismissed or to be intimidated into invalidating my own experiences, she wrote, adding, to even imply that there's a quantifiable amount that would compensate for sexual assault is frankly insulting. It would take his representatives almost 3 years to say they believed Alice. After he contacted them last week, Brown was suddenly removed from the website of Curtis Brown and Tavistock Wood. The latter then said, Russell Brand categorically and vehemently denies the allegation made in 2020, but we now believe we are horribly misled by him. Tavistock Wood has terminated all professional ties to Brand. Some names have been changed. Damn. There we go. See, there's the... look, they're just promoting their show. They're just promoting their show. Watch Russell Brand in plain sight. Oh my God, I thought it was... The rumours were that it was about numerous things, but it is about Russell Brand. Jesus Christ! Whoo! Fire up the drama engines, boys! We're in, finally. Been waiting for fucking something to happen. Jesus. Hopefully we can get some long-term coverage out of this shit.